The general election matchup is set. This week, both Biden and Trump hitting the campaign trail. And beyond his authoritarian leanings, we are getting more insight into a potential second term under Donald Trump. The presumptive nominee for the GOP threatening to gut Social Security and Medicare during an interview on CNBC this morning.
There is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting, and in terms of also the theft and the bad management of entitlements, tremendous bad management of entitlements. There's tremendous amounts of things and numbers of things you can do.
Joe Biden quickly slamming the idea on social media, saying, quote, "Not on my watch." The Trump campaign immediately tried to walk it back, but the damage was done. Trump is potentially alienating huge swaths of Americans with these, quote, promises he's making. It comes after reports that he's privately expressing support as well for a 16-week national abortion ban. The campaign cycle also taking a dark turn as his supporters embracing violence. Attendees at a Kansas County Republican event were seen on video beating and kicking an effigy of President Biden. Here is that alarming video on your screen now. The event accepting donations in exchange for opportunities to hit a martial arts dummy with a rubber Biden mask and a T-shirt promoting a conspiracy theory. Even some hitting the effigy with a bat. Many calling it very dangerous, including the Republican Speaker of the Kansas House. The state's GOP chair claiming the event had nothing to do with their organization. But it starts at the very top. Trump embracing retribution and violence repeatedly and putting American democracy at risk. Joining me now is Dr. Jason Johnson, politics professor at Morgan State University and the host of the podcast, A Word with Jason Johnson on Slate.com. Jason, my friend, good to see you. Look, Trump never has had a real policy plan. That's no big shocker for anyone who pays attention. Right. He already had one term of a presidency to show what he was able to do. Didn't do anything. Isn't a second term just promising to be just more of the same, or is it going to be worse when it comes to things like Social Security and Medicare?
Oh, it's tremendously worse, Katie, because the first time he was just incompetent and corrupt. Now he'll be effectively incompetent and even more corrupt. The whole Project 2025, they're going to gut Social Security, they're going to gut civil service. All of those things are very clear. One of the things that I don't find shocking about anything that we hear out of the Trump camp heading into 2024 is the fact that they've basically learned from their ongoing coup how to manage the government better next time. So I don't think there's anybody out there who believes that Donald Trump is going to be a better president the second time around. You just have a large number of people who were satisfied with the first time he was in office and would like him to come back. I don't think there's anything he did that would convince people it's like, yeah, he needs another chance because I really want him to build that wall that supposedly Mexico was going to pay for.
And that health care plan, right? Because we were always waiting for that health care plan. Oh, and the infrastructure, right? It was infrastructure week for, well, wreak havoc for many years.
Like
Jason, I wanted to
times,
ask your thoughts. Yes. I wanted to ask your thoughts about that story out of Kansas, this growing embrace of normalizing political violence, but specifically on the MAGA movement and on the GOP side.
Well, Katie, I've said for a long time, there is no more Republican Party. They're a dime store front for a terrorist movement called MAGA. This is not a party anymore, right? They're just covering for a terrorist organization. So encouraging violence under the guise of humor, encouraging violence, whether it's attacking the Capitol or beating Joe Biden in effigy, this is standard. It's not new. Remember, we had, 15 years ago, and you had Sarah Palin with, pictures of Democrats during the midterms with gun sights around their heads. None of these things are new. But one of the things I do think is important, I have to point this out, Katie, when I was looking at the Newsweek article pointing this out, and they talked about Republican leader Mike Brown complaining about, they had a picture of Mike Brown, the basketball coach. No, this is Mike Brown. He's the guy who's the head of the Republican Party of the state is another kind of Mike Brown. I'm glad that local Republicans are complaining about what happened in Kansas, but that doesn't speak for the party as a whole. And there's way too many Republicans in Congress and in the national party who embrace this level of violence.
Well, and there's no condemnation of the political violence as high up as it should go. We're not going to count on Trump to be able to condemn what his supporters are doing, especially when they're kicking effigies of Joe Biden. But we don't have anybody from the RNC anymore because that's, as I've said now, the Republican Nepotism Committee. We don't have anybody at the RNC to say no. We don't have anybody in the Senate that's stepping up and saying no. We don't have anybody in the House. So there's no self-policing going on by anyone. And now, like I said, it's so normalized, Jason, that it's almost like a blip. Like this is newsworthy stuff that's going on, but it's become a blip. So is President Biden himself and the Democrats being direct about what the stakes are here? We talk about, let's focus on the stakes, right? Is the messaging resonating with the voters?
No, of course not. Because the president of the United States, as much as he's done a good job in a lot of different areas, he and the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland have absolutely failed the American people. I want to make this clear. They have failed the American people in delivering the message that what happened on January 6th and the increasing violence from the MAGA movement is a threat. They are not making that clear enough. You cannot say that Donald Trump and the Republicans are an existential threat to our democracy, and at the same time turn around and say, I invite Donald Trump to the White House to come and work with me on fixing immigration, but I don't think he will. Either the man is a threat or he's not. Either Merrick Garland should be investigating more members of Congress and not just getting the corner boys who happen to be attacking Congress on January 6th. They have not taken this seriously enough. So that is why people are comfortable engaging this level of violence. Because one of the things about bad behavior, I don't care if you're a college principal, I don't care if you're a cop, I don't care if you're a parent. If you do not punish bad behavior, it continues. And Republicans have not seen a punishment at the ballot box and not in the justice system and certainly not in political record. From Democrats, they have not faced consequences for the violence that they have encouraged really for the last 10 years and especially since January 6th.
Dr. Jason Johnson, it's good to see you.